Hey neighbors, I think it's been just a little while since I did an episode, and I thought, well, I better get with it. I've just been things going on and got kind of busy, but got another story to tell, and it makes me think of all of us have worked with a lot of different personalities over the years. Uh, Sometimes you work with somebody, you feel that you just blend. You kind of get to where after a while you just know what the other person's going to do. They know what you're going to do, and it's just a good working relationship, and you enjoy visiting. With others, it's not so easy, and sometimes it's just simply background, culture. Let's face it, we're different. We're different. God didn't create a bunch of robots. We all have different personalities and backgrounds, and we're different, and it's okay. It's okay. And this particular story was about a guy that helped me, and he was a good guy. He was a young fella, and I was young too at one time. Probably pulled some real boneheaded stunts, but this boy was, I could tell he was from a good background, and he was okay, but he was a guy that tended to question what you were doing. He didn't want to respect your knowledge and experience in the trade, and he didn't have any background in the trade. But for some reason, I guess he thought he knew better. Maybe not enough maturity yet to figure out that it pays to listen to a man that's been there and done it. And I know I don't shortcut that. I explain to them that there's dangers, that there are issues that we deal with, especially out in the oil field when we're dealing with some of the high voltage. And there's hidden spooks out there, you might say. They'll get you and you won't go home, and you might cause others not to go home. I explained a lot of these things to this fella. I was working on a lease for Lacey Company down around Carthage, big gas field. But this particular location had a oil pumping unit on it, and they were pumping oil there. And they had just set this unit on this well, and they had the location all built, unit set there, and we had to get power over to the electric motor so they could pump that thing again, bring that black gold out of the ground. Well, we got started digging the ditch over to it, and I want to say it was probably 150 feet across that location, and a little tough to dig because when they build those locations, they get them. It's pretty hard stuff, to cut a ditch through. And we'd got the ditch dug. We'd run the conduit, backfilled the ditch. Had our control panel sit at the back of the pumping unit here on a stub pole to tie into this motor, and we'd done all of that, and of course over on the power pole there was a meter service here and a disconnect under it. This meter service was only going to feed this one pumping unit, and so we had been down there earlier and set that pole and got the service all built and set the pole, and power company had already built a transformer bank and hooked it up. So it was sitting there hot on this pole to the top of the disconnect, 480 volts, three phase. And if you don't know, that's dangerous stuff right there. And if people tell you different, then they don't know the science very well. It is dangerous stuff. And we'd gotten everything, like I said, we had the power down there. Of course, that'd been done earlier in the week or month, whatever, and underground's here. So we got ready to pull wire over from the power pole out here over to the pumping unit. And I told this helper, I said, here's a fish tape. I don't want you pushing from the load end, in other words, the pumping unit, to where that hot box is, because I don't want you inadvertently getting that fish tape up in that hot stuff up there. Of course, I would have been there to catch it, but just in case something, happened, diverted attention or something, as a safety precaution. So here's this disconnect here, and in the top is this hot 483 phase, and I'm having him push this steel fish tape down in that steel conduit. And I said, you would have to try to get this fish tape in that 483 phase. You would have to try. You see this guard over the voltage up here? You would have to physically force that fish tape in behind that to make contact. And I said, and that would be a terrible mistake, because that would blow up in your face and could kill or injure you, burn you. I said, do you understand what I'm saying? Are you listening to me? He said, yes, I am. I said, all right. And I showed him again, and I went through it again. And he said, I got it. I said, I'm making sure you got it, because I'm telling you, this stuff can hurt you. And this is where we need to push it from. This is the safest place. And you would have to do something boneheaded to get yourself hurt. And but this boy always wanted to test the water. And I got him all lined up, started the fish tape in there myself, told him how to do it, gave him examples, showing him. And I walked, I would say, 10 or 12 steps away from him. And all of a sudden I heard boom, boom, just one boom. And I turned and looked. Of course, I already knew. Just as soon as I heard it, I knew what had happened. This knucklehead just thought, well, I'll just see if he's telling the truth, if that will blow up. He had that, I already had the fish tape started in there a little ways. So he just took that thing and folded, stuck it up in that voltage to see if it would do what I said it would do. Well, guess what? I wasn't lying. It did exactly what I said it would do. And as I turned and I looked, he's standing there like with this deer in the headlights look, and he was froze in time. And I walked back over, and he didn't move. His muscles, eyes were wide, and I said, won't do any good. There's no purpose in chewing you out, because, boy, you couldn't have got a bigger lesson than you just got. I said, why didn't you listen to what I was telling you? I warned you about this. Not a response. I said, are you burned? Do you have a burn on you? I said, how are your eyes? Can you see me? Because I could tell he didn't look like he was burned or anything. But boy, when you got a flash like that, that metal can come back in your eyes. Just a lot of things can happen. And, your hands could be burned from getting that stuff in there. And I looked at him, I looked at his face and everything, and I said, you appear to be all right, and you can see me. I said, are you all right? And he says, I'm all right. I said, son, there's no point in me getting on to you. I said, you couldn't get a better lesson than you just got. But I said, it was a very unnecessary lesson. I had given you all the information you needed. There was no point in pulling that kind of stunt. That just wasn't a good thing to do. And at that point, due to other things that had happened with this fella, I realized it was about time for him to do something else for a living. I didn't fire him. I don't remember how it all transpired, but boy, that scared me to death. We work with this stuff all the time, and you know, most people, they listen to you. You know, they listen to you because they know it's dangerous. Well, think about it, folks. Think about some of the folks you worked with, and you'll probably come up with somebody that's like that. Unfortunate, not smart, not wise, and pays to listen to the age and the experience. Pays to listen. One of the lessons of life, and of course, I'm 70 years old and I'm still learning about that. Won't quit learning until I die, and hope I'll continue learning after that. I don't know what it'll be like on the other side exactly in reference to this, but folks, I sure appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate all of you that have subscribed. It helps the channel. At least they tell me it helps the channel. These stories, as I've said before, as I said in the beginning, are to preserve the memories of the many I've worked with. I appreciate them all. I enjoyed the opportunity. And want to thank you again for listening in. And I want to say so long until next time. I'm Mac McCarty. So long for the Rough and Tumbled channel.